I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen, and we're going to be talking about transaction coordination today. And pretty much I'm just going to give you like a detailed rundown of kind of what we do. And you guys have access to this too if you want to go back and look at it. But pretty much, you know what a transaction coordinator does. They follow the deal from start to finish and all throughout the process. So they'll make sure to get the property under contract. They'll send that to the title company. They'll make sure the title company has everything they need, get all the inspections done, and so forth. So does anyone have any questions before we get started of something that they might want to address? No? Okay, so we can just answer questions then as they come up.
Yeah.
Basically, you're going to have your acquisition person, if it's somebody separate, you know, sending your marketing, running the deals, and getting like properties accepted. And if it is not the same person, like if you hire a transaction coordinator separately from your AQ person, then your transaction coordinator will pick it up as soon as the AQ person has it under contract. If they're one and the same, then again, you would just start this process once you have the verbal acceptance. So before you close any transactions, basically, I stated right here, you have to have already found a title company or attorney. You can put properties under contract without it and just write like to be determined, but it's better to have someone that you want to work with and know their fees, that they can double close, you know, dry double close, that sort of thing before you start working with them. So I just went ahead and added that there for especially a lot of the new people that might not have a title company. They know that they can start that process before they go any further. So, and your transaction coordinator, especially a virtual assistant type person or assistant in general, can help call around and like build your team. So if you need to find a realtor, if you need to find a title company, anything like that, they can actually make the calls and fill out the lead sheets for you. And you can just review and see if like the pricing is what you want, if they're willing to do the things that you want them to do. And then you can go from there. So your transaction coordinator can assist you in all of these things. And then we have shared you guys have probably seen our contract. It's just a very generic type contract. You can, you know, run it by an attorney in your area to make sure it's good, but we use it all the time for Iowa and Illinois, and it works just fine. But basically we start with a blank canvas and we take it and we just fill in the information on each property that's been accepted. So we have Eric in the Quad Cities that helps run the leads. So when I screen a lead and I'm interested in making an offer, I'll send them to the house to get pictures, look at the condition and that sort of thing. He sends that back to me with all of his details and I'll tell him to make the offer. And basically from there, he's just negotiating back and forth with the seller to lock that deal up. And then once he's ready and they say that they want to accept our price, he'll ask me to create this contract. So my job, I kind of overlap in a lot of different areas, but I do acquisitions and I do all the transaction coordination. So other than having Eric physically go to the house and get the pictures and details and having that seller sign the contract, I pretty much handle all of the rest of the stuff. And so you can find someone that's able to do that too for you. So he'll write me and ask me to go ahead and create this contract. I'll do that and send it back to him. And then he'll either physically bring it to the house and get the contract, or as you know, we have all of the different types of like HelloSign and Adobe and all the electronic type signatures. Whereas the seller, if they're comfortable with technology, some are not, but most people are, you could just upload that or have your transaction coordinator upload that to HelloSign. And you can get a signed contract within minutes doing it that way. So you don't have to actually go back to the house and get your signature. And then the process starts once that contract is fully signed. So you'll sign it and then the seller will sign it. And from there, this person will open escrow. And all that means is sending the signed contract over to your title company. So like I do everything by email. And we've worked with our title company for a really long time and I know her well. So if you just get your contact's email, all I do is, here you can see. So our girl her name's Amanda also. So we say, you know, Amanda, please see attached signed contract. We give her the seller attorney's information, which you will have to get from your seller. And then let her know how we plan to finance or, you know, close it as a cash deal. And then on our contracts, we always put $1 earnest money, you know, just to lock the contract up. But we actually don't ever write any more than $1 when we lock these contracts up. Sometimes we'll get a little pushback, but once we explain that the money stays in escrow anyway until closing, that they don't actually get to put it in their pocket, we don't have any problems with doing that. So this is just a little piece of the email that I send, and that pretty much opens the escrow account for this file. And then if you are financing this deal, you'll just need to make sure that your lender gets a copy. So what you could do, if you already have a lender, you can always include them on this email to your title company. That way they get a mutual introduction as well. And they know, the lender knows where to send the title request to, and title knows where to contact the lender to get updated information. And then if you're having your like virtual assistant or somebody do this for you, just have them copy you in on it so that you can make sure everything's good at least a few times so that you know things are getting done properly and you can help train. You don't want to just throw them, you know, in here and like expect them to do this. And then, you know, 2 weeks later you're asking, you know, what's the status of this? And they're like, oh, I didn't even send it to the lender yet, because then it puts you back 2 weeks. So I would just always recommend that, especially if it's a new hire, just to make sure things are getting done. Okay, so once that part is done, you're in escrow, the property's locked up. Now you actually have to start your due diligence, and you just want to make sure it's a good deal. That's all that means. So running your comps, knowing what the house is worth. If you're going to be selling it like a turnkey or you're keeping it for a rental, you want to know the cash flow. And you want to do your inspections. So here's what we do. After it goes under contract, the first thing I do is run comps. So I don't do this on every property, only the ones that go under contract, because we see so many properties every day. There's no way I'd be able to run comps on all of those. That would be more than a full-time job if you're running comps on every property that is coming in your pipeline. So I just wait until it's locked up, because you can guesstimate, like, you know, this house is going to be worth $100,000. You know, it might not be exact, but you know it's going to be around there just based on the area, beds, baths, that sort of thing. So that's how you can get your initial offer, is just by like a guesstimate or zestimate, if you will. And let's say you run the comps and you're way off. Well, you have that inspection period in your contract, so it's really not a big deal. And you only put up $1 earnest money anyway. So if you go out, you don't want to go outside the timeline, but if you did, $1 earnest money. So that's what we do in our contract, just to protect ourselves, so that even if we need to back out or, you know, we passed our inspection period, we're still okay. But I run the comps, and as long as everything's still good, I'll proceed with the inspections. So again, these are kind of step-by-steps. I only run comps after the contract is signed, and then I only do inspections once I get the ARV and I see that it's actually a pretty good deal. So we want to make sure that we have like our numbers before we go spending money on inspections. Otherwise, again, we'd have costs, but no closed deal. So we would just be spending money when we don't need to be. And then I do everything. I don't know how many people here, does everyone have Podio? Yeah. So Podio makes it really easy, actually. And you can customize it through like GlobiFlow, or even like modify your template, or manage workflows. That's all on your Podio page, where you can do all of that stuff really easily yourself. But like these I set up, and basically you can, so like on the contract page, you can do what do you call it, like an automated workflow. So when you put in a date for the inspection, 14 days from then, it'll automatically pop up with a notification saying, hey, this inspection period is ending. You know, if you have more than $1 earnest money, then you want to really pay attention to your inspection period for sure, because you don't want to lose that money. So you can do all kinds of things here. Call for utility inspection. So we've done this, and we assign it to a virtual assistant, and that pops up on their little task list, and they check it off. So once they're done, they just check that box. So Podio makes it really easy. The inspections that we do, we actually have our rehab guys go in the house. So we don't hire a home inspector for our acquisitions. We just send our rehab guys to get the bids, since they're the ones that are going to be doing the work anyway. And you guys could do the same, or if you want a home inspector, it's, you know, totally up to you. But at this point in the process is where we would go ahead and get those done. And we do termite inspections. That's really big in the Quad Cities. So I don't know if that's big in your area, but any inspections you have, you want to go ahead and get those done if you're moving forward with this deal. And then if you don't have a CRM, which it looks like everyone here does, there's always, Google Calendar reminder, any way you want to track it, just so that you don't miss any of those deadlines. And then here's something that we started doing not long ago, adding a lockbox. So we like our properties to be vacant, but they're not always vacant. So sometimes that creates kind of a hassle to arrange these, multiple walkthroughs and stuff. But when we do have vacant houses, if it does not already have a lockbox on it, we actually added it in our contract that it requires the seller to allow us to add a lockbox to a vacant house. And this makes it easy, not only for inspections, but if you end up wanting to wholesale this property, now you have a lockbox and you can actually send, your potential buyers through without having to contact the seller each time or try to arrange that. So we always want a lockbox if it's possible on the houses. And so at this point is when we would do that. And then I just go ahead and put here the type of inspections that we perform. And you might want to perform the same inspections or add to it. But the whole house walkthrough. So again, this is with our team member, not an actual a home inspector. We do use a home inspector after our rehabs are done when we're going to sell the properties for our end buyers, just so that they can see everything's good with the house. But when we're buying these, we know they're rehabs and they're going to need a lot of work. So we're really not worried about getting a, A+ on the home inspector. It's not going to happen. Termite inspection, again, we do these. We pay for the termite inspection, but we always have the seller pay for any treatment needed. Okay, and then invoices and commission statements. I don't know if you guys are partnering with anybody or if you have like a lead source or anything like that, but what I always make sure is any invoices or commission statements that you want to appear on the HUD need to be created and then sent to the title company. And I do this too, so it's really easy for a virtual assistant to do. They can just create a quick invoice and send it over to the title company. Okay, and then if termite treatment is needed for our houses, I always wait until we actually close the deal, just in case if it falls through, we don't want to treat somebody else's house. So it's just one of those things that you think would be like common sense, but a lot of the times people think that they're going to close on these houses, go ahead and get it treated, and then in the end, if it falls through, you're left with all of the invoices and things to pay. So we always wait for that. And then this is what our inspection in Podio looks like under our acquisition walkthrough area. I don't know how Tyler has your guys' Podio set up, but let me see. Does everyone have that area of the walkthrough? Like this? You might not.
No.
Okay. So I don't know how easy it is to create this. Tyler actually did it for us. But this is where we do all of our walkthrough information here, and it just keeps everything in one area. So you have all your numbers, you have your profit, everything's figured right there in that one area. So it might be worth mentioning, unless you already have a way that you're doing that. I really like that space in our Podio. And then deals pending. Okay, so deals pending, I actually still have a deals pending sheet here. My little window popped up and I can't move it now. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So it's just a spreadsheet. That's all it is. And it keeps track of everything. And we've used that forever since I started with Matt. It was his deal pending sheet that I took over years later. And I still keep it, even though we have Podio now, just because I really like it and I got used to it, but I still do update Podio as well. So there's two different options, or maybe three. You can use Podio, you can use deals pending, or you can use both. But since you guys have Podio, the CRM makes it really easy to track everything. So you said you don't think you have the walkthrough tab, but you should have the contract tab, right?
Yeah.
Here. So yeah, how it works, and I know I talked to somebody else who was using the system too, and they were working all their leads and seller leads, which is great. But then everything stayed there. So like, let's say they got an accepted offer, They would just create the contract. They would do everything here in seller leads, and they wouldn't use these. And that's actually, I did the same thing for a long time when Podio was new, just because it seemed easy enough. And, you know, all these other buttons kind of seemed a little overwhelming at first. But then when I really started using them, it makes your life a ton easier, because seller leads is really for all of the incoming leads, whether they're, you know, you're attempting to contact. So we have all these tags here. They're bad, attempting to contact, seller opt out, meaning we're not interested. But once you actually have a property that you want to make an offer on, you really want to push that over to the offers app, because here it'll show you like all of your pipelines. So in the last couple of days, we've made these offers, and I've created all of these contracts. So our guy Eric, when he's, you know, needing to follow up with these people that we've made offers on, he can just come here and say, oh, we haven't gotten a signed contract for 1211 LeClaire, let me check on that, and he can call there. Instead of seller leads doesn't really break it down for you. I mean, you can filter, but this will show you all of your current offers out there in one space. And then to go a step further, once you have that signed contract, you really want to push it to contracts tab, because there you can work all of your properties. So these are, anytime you have a closing that's set, you can just go here and just say, okay, what do we have closing, you know, this week or next week? And do it that way. Termite over here on the left. The good thing about Podio is it's so customizable that you can literally add anything you want to track here. So active contracts, refinancing, appraisal status, whatever you want, you can set it up. And all you have to do is use this filter button and then set your filters and create a new view. And it's really, really simple, but it makes your life a ton easier. So that's what we use to keep our pipeline completely organized. And then this is just an example of the deal pending sheet if you were to go that route. We have like the asking price, accepted, ARV, rent, and just the pertinent information for that house, and then the closing date on the deal pending. Any questions so far?
And this is all available in the back office, the sheet right here you have?
This sheet, yes. So definitely it's a
Cool.
lot of information. And I'm just going through it kind of fast, because it's really just step by step how you want to manage the process. But yeah, you can definitely go back and look, and yeah, the sheet will be helpful so that you can just follow it along as you go through the process. But
Right.
after you've finished all of this, you have your property, you've done your inspections. Let's say it comes back and, you know, the profit really isn't as high as you want it to be because rehab is, you know, too expensive, or maybe your ARV did come in a little bit lower than what you thought the house was worth. This is a great time to request a reduction. And we always do this before we terminate a contract, because maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10, the seller will come back and accept, even if they tell you, no, I can't take that price. As soon as you go to terminate the contract, they'll say, okay, I'll do it, because they know you've already done all the inspections. You're ready to close. You just need a cheaper price. And some people don't want to go through the process of putting it back up for sale, waiting on another buyer. They have to go through the same inspections, and they don't know if that new buyer is also going to want a lower price. So we always ask for a price reduction. And then as long as you're doing that within your inspection period, there should be no issue. You can always ask outside of the inspection period, but then you might have a little pushback, just because, you know, that is what your inspection period is for, to ask for those reductions. And then if any additional amendments or addendums are needed, so like, for example, if the seller says that they'll reduce the price, your transaction coordinator would request the documents from the title company and get those signed for you. And they can always put it in HelloSign for your signature and get all the signatures needed. So you really don't have to deal with anything. Your transaction coordinator can handle everything. And then proceeding with closing. So once you have all of your due diligence done, your inspections are done, you're ready to close. Now you want to go ahead and contact the title company and make sure closing is on track. And your transaction coordinator should already be doing this throughout the process, making sure if it's with a lender that the appraisal is being ordered, the inspections are being done. But once you are ready, your team is ready, we just want to check with them, because title issues do come up sometimes. There are delays for the seller, and we just want to double check. So your transaction coordinator can always send this request to the title company or attorney. They're going to be your best bet for figuring out when the property is able to close. And then they'll also ensure the appraisal's been ordered. The lender will order the appraisal. We just like to stay on top of them. Not saying that we want to micromanage everyone, because that gets pretty annoying. People don't like that. But just a follow-up, if you haven't heard that the appraisal has been scheduled, maybe 2 weeks after the contract's been sent, just say, hey, like, what's, going on? Has this appraisal been ordered? That sort of thing, just so it doesn't sit too long before you actually mention anything. And then the appraiser will just need a point of contact. So we have someone on our team that's able to arrange these. But if you have a lockbox, again, that's why the lockbox is so important. You can just give the appraiser the lockbox and they can go at any time they want. And then once the property is ready to close, the title company and attorney will work with the lender on that close date and let you know when it's closing. And then once you have a close date, that's when it's really important for insurance and occupancy information. So once the closing is set, not before, just because you don't want to set insurance. It's kind of a hassle for them to bind the insurance and then keep switching the date. So you want to make sure you're pre-qualified and let them know that to expect that this property is going to be closing soon, but you don't want to lock anything in until you have a close date. And then occupancy, if you're wanting to close this vacant and it was occupied, we always reach out and just double check and send someone by the house. We've closed on properties that, the seller or seller's attorney say, yeah, it's vacant. And then we go to the house to do the rehab and there's someone still living there. That should never happen, but it has happened. So we always just send someone by the house before we close just to make sure it's vacant. Send your lender proof of insurance. They'll request that. So that's probably not something that you have to stay on top of if it's a lender deal. Okay, and then closing day. So this is pretty self-explanatory. You'll probably have to do this part yourself because loan documents require the guarantee person that's actually buying the house signing all the paperwork. But they'll usually set that up so that a notary can meet you wherever you are and get those signed and overnighted back. And then a final wire amount is needed. So whether this is coming from if you're buying a house or if you're selling a house, either way, you want to just make sure that wire is being sent by whoever's supposed to send it. And the transaction coordinator is supposed to follow up a day or two in advance just to make sure that they're aware. And then the title company will send you the HUD. So this kind of goes along with those loan documents and final closing documents. Everything's included from the lender package. But usually the title company is okay with sending like a prelim HUD for review, just to make sure that there's no errors, any invoices or commissions have been shown on the HUD, any inspections you did. You just want to double check all the numbers. And if it's a cash deal, the HUDs can just be signed electronically if there's no lender docs involved. Okay, and then let's see. So once closed and funded, okay, so our title company is in the habit of actually sending us the executed HUD after it closes, and this makes us aware that the wire's coming, but also that the property actually closed, because there has been times where a closing's been set and something happened. So weather delayed the documents, the wire didn't get sent. If someone's really not on top of this process, a lot of things can go wrong. And so we ask our attorney's office to send us pretty much just confirmation of closing. Like, yes, this closed, wire received, you own the house, or your buyer owns the house. And from there, you may not need this. It depends on what your business model is. But for us, we do a lot of rehabs and selling turnkey properties and that sort of thing. So we send an internal email. And even if it's just maybe 2 or 3 people on your team and there's not a lot to do, this might be beneficial, especially if you plan to grow, just to get people in the habit of doing this. So your transaction coordinator would send a closing email, basically with the address, the property information, and tasks for people to do. So here's an example of one. And it just basically goes over the pertinent information for the closing. So we're closing this property in this LLC name, the date of closing, and then who verified this is vacant. So again, if somebody drives by the house and it's still occupied, we can go back to this person and say, hey, like, what's up? Why is someone living here? What type of property it is. So if it's a rehab, needs rehab, and that alerts our rehab team to get things started. If it's occupied, that alerts our property management company to notify the tenant of the change and where to send rent to. So just all of this information here, basically telling everybody on the team what they're responsible for. And then ongoing management. So if you're wholesaling deals, once the deal is done, you're done. Like, you don't need to do anything else. But if you're doing rehabs, turnkeys, fix and flips, there may be some additional information and communication you have to do along the way afterwards, especially if you're working with like end buyers who are owning these turnkey, or if you're managing for these buyers. So you might need to handle utility transfers, walkthroughs, any of this stuff. You might add to it or take away from it. It really just depends on what you're doing in your business. But I'm gonna flip over here real quick, and I'm not sure if you guys can see this. We created this map, and you do, oh, that's too far. You do have access to this as well, which could make it a little more simple for each step. The transaction coordination document that I just showed you has these steps, but it has all of the details under it. So if you want just a quick look at each step, you can send this to your transaction coordinator, and they know exactly what to do each time. And then if they have questions on that specific step, that's when they can go to the document we just went over and look at all the details underneath that, and then just follow those steps. But it's pretty self-explanatory as far as start to finish and all the in-between. But it is a lot, and it varies with each closing depending on how you plan to close it. So does anyone have any questions right now that you kind of know what we went through?
Not really.
No, what kind of deals are you guys doing right now?
Well, I'm just doing I'm just doing pocket listings right now. I did have a question. What so the hiring a TC coordinator, because we are going to be doing direct to seller pretty soon. I think you folks use Indeed, right? Like, is what you recommend to hire somebody? Indeed.
It depends on how you're wanting to hire. So like Indeed is a really good place for local type hires. If you're wanting someone in the office, you can find virtual people on Indeed as well. But Upwork is really what we use for any virtual assistant type tasks, and transaction coordination is one of those that you could give to a virtual assistant. It's really task related, a lot of paperwork and data entry, and organization is really, really big. So as long as you can find someone with those skills, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's local, and you might get a better hire and better price on Upwork finding someone that way. So it can go either way. We use Indeed a lot for people who we want to bring into the office locally. And then for virtual assistant, which transaction coordination definitely fits that criteria, we use Upwork a lot.
Okay, and you're in the Quad Cities. Well, yeah, you have them do virtually. What's kind of the pay? Like, what kind of pay range you think that might be?
So we start a lot of our virtual assistants with like data entry type stuff, anywhere between $3 and $5 for cold calling for specialty. So like we have a girl that's doing cold calling, and I want to say she's closer like 6 to 8, but that's like what she does. So she already knows how to do everything. We just had to give her our login information and our lists, and she pretty much ran with it. So when you have somebody that's experienced and kind of knows the process, you can pay them a little more because there's less training involved, but you'll still want to show them your process. So I would say you may have to look and try a couple of different things. So if you put an ad on there, for $3 or $4, and you're not really getting anybody, applying, maybe bump it up to $5. But We've never really had any problems putting an ad out for, you know, $3 and having it accepted. And usually it is overseas. Philippines is a big one that we get a lot of people apply that are from the Philippines. And we actually have 2 or 3 now that we're actually 3 or 4. We just hired somebody else from the Philippines. And they're really, really good. If you can find a good, you know, someone who's organized, that's going to be the biggest thing. Communication, someone who's, you know, on top of things. That's really what this
Yeah.
personality is. So I think you guys are aware of like the DISC assessment test,
Yes.
that whole thing. So this would really be like a high C personality. Which is what I am. That's like my thing. I need everything like completely organized. I don't like, you know, improv. Nope. Like I need to prepare. So that's what this is, you know, and I would start small. So you don't want to hire someone and just throw them all of this and be like, do it and step back. You really want to at least walk through just 1 or 2 deals with them, doing this entire process and copying them in so that they can see the exchange. And after you do that, they should really get the idea of how it works and be able to completely take it over. And then they would be copying you in just so that you can see. That's still what I do after 7.5 years with Matt. I just copy him in on everything just so that he's in the loop. But he really doesn't have to deal with anything. So he's just aware if he, you know, wants to know the status of a deal, he can just go back to his email or ask me and it's right there, you know, but he doesn't actually have to be involved in the process. But it wasn't that way when we first started. He was very involved and hands-on when we first started. And I think that contributed to me being successful. I think when a lot of people hire, they just expect someone to, you know, take a task or take a process and run with it. And I think that's kind of setting people up for failure. There's a lot of people that can take things and run with it. And, you know, that's awesome. But it still doesn't help them develop the way that you want the process to work. You kind of have to know what you want before someone else can give you what you want, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. I didn't you know, yeah, that's a great explanation. I didn't realize that the TC could be virtual, you know. I was thinking they had to be somebody local, but that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so cool. I love it.
Any other questions? Are you guys doing, Cy and Megan, are y'all doing like wholesale deals or fix and flips or?
I primarily wholesale.
Okay.
So I did use that Facebook marketing method, Facebook marketplace method,
Yeah.
and I ended up getting something on the contract about a week ago, and I
Oh,
had it going today. So I'm pretty excited about that.
yeah.
Got an offer. I got one offer in and waiting for a second offer. The first offer is $7,000. I think it's a little bit, but hey, you know, something to work from. So, yeah, I guess for Tony, you know, did that Facebook thing. I know you like to go direct to agent, but that Facebook marketplace is a, you know, free place, and I've been, you know, so some of the stuff I see people post is like other wholesalers too. So, I started reaching out to them. I haven't done a JV deal in years, but I was like, well, they right there on Facebook. So if I see them posting the property, I ask them like, hey, if you can't find a buyer, you want JV on this, and see if I can find a buyer for them too. So,
Oh, awesome. So you partnered up on it?
well, this one is direct to seller that I got.
Oh, okay.
But I'm looking at doing JVs too now, going back into JVs now too, just because it's just sitting right there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at properties. So that's been, you know, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But you found a seller on you found a seller on Facebook Marketplace?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Do you?
Huh?
What's that?
Oh, what's your question?
Yeah. Do we have that here in the program for Facebook? I think we do, right? For marketing Facebook or.
It was the Virtual Unemployed 2.0. He had
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, about that. So I gave it a shot, and within a week I was able to find something. So I'm hoping maybe every month I could at least find a deal out of it, and
Nice.
maybe the relationships with it. You know, and I'm going through like a 100-mile radius too. So, and you know, if I need to find buyers and scramble, I can. You know, I've gotten pretty decent at scrambling and finding buyers pretty quick. You know, we just buy buyers list, upload them to a text platform, and just blast the buyers and just add them that way.
Nice.
So
Very nice. Yeah, you know, I tell my team, I kind of fell into the pocket listings, you know, and because my buyer makes it so easy for me, you know. I didn't really go see houses as much, you know, but I mean, this, you know, it doesn't even matter anymore. I kind of, it was a mental block of like, I had to go see the houses, but I can just, now I'm starting to think and I do have it on my goals is to get a runner, and start building my team. Even for, you know, I don't need to be there, you know, I don't even need to be in, you know, Southern California or Portland, you know, I can just hire a runner and do everything virtually. I just kind of like, you know, I thought I had to be there, you know, but no, I don't think I need to even be in this hemisphere, although it helps with the time zone. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, the reason why I went out for this one, like I do some stuff in like Tidewater, like 2 hours away. So sometimes I have somebody that's like an insurance claim adjuster. So she's used to like, and in mobile notary, so she's used to like looking at properties and writing them insurance adjuster claims. So she'll go there for me for properties sometimes. And I've done a few where I haven't seen the properties. This one, I was just kind of, I don't know, I was watching the seller so much back on Facebook, and it was such a personal relationship. I was like, maybe I should show up for this one just so she could see my face, because we were chatting for a while, talking about life and everything. So it was a pretty cool, meeting. So it was just more of that. But you know, you're right. You know, if you can, you know, try to, you know, send somebody else. I'm working on that, transitioning more and more of me doing, you know, sending more people instead of myself.
Yeah, Amanda, I have a question for you. How many deals do you folks get? Because Sai made me think. How many deals do you folks get virtually under contract, and nobody goes and like sees the house really? Like you just send buyers out there. Like, you know, you have a lockbox. Maybe the seller puts a lockbox, and you know, buyers go.
Yeah,
Right?
so are you asking how many we sell that way or how many we get through acquisitions?
Yeah. How many do you get through, and also sell? Like how many
Yeah,
properties?
so before when Matt was here in Scottsdale, that's all we did. Everything was virtual. We didn't walk any of the houses. So, I mean, that was the business model. Like it was wholesaling. You know, he kept a lot of the houses in his own portfolio, but we didn't walk any of the houses. We did it all sight unseen, everything virtual, signing contracts, everything. And then once he moved back and he built, you know, what he has now, we have, you know, our own property management company, own warehouse. Like, I mean, it's a big operation. So we have more people on the team. So it just made sense
Yeah.
to have somebody go to the houses. We could get, you know, more accurate bids since we were doing a lot of these, you know, rehabs for either fix and flips, turnkeys, or rentals. That way we're just more accurate, but it's definitely not necessary. For the first couple of years that I worked for him, we didn't do any of that. So, and same with buyers too. Everything was virtual at one point.
So it was a quick question. So Matt got up to that 450 unit portfolio, all virtual, pretty much.
Well, he had some houses before he hired me, because I mean, he lived there when he got started, and I know he was driving back. I think it was from Michigan. He was driving back and forth, and that's where he had some of his first houses and multi-units and stuff. Like, so before I was hired, he already had some in his portfolio. But yeah, he really ramped up when I started working for him, and I couldn't tell you how many exactly he added, but it was all from here. Yeah, he had hundreds of houses living here over there in the cities, all virtual. So sure did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you tell when you did it virtually? Did you tell the sellers, you know, that the properties that were not vacant? You know, did you just do them all vacant, or the ones that were not vacant? Did you just tell the seller, hey, we're just wholesaling it, or you tell them, here, our contractors are going through?
Yeah, we usually would say our contractors are going through. Wholesaling is
Okay.
really scary to a lot of sellers. A lot of people in general, if you know you're not very knowledgeable about real estate investing, it just sounds like, well, like how can you wholesale? You know, you don't even own the house, but you're trying to sell it. It really scares people. So we try not to do that. We want to be transparent, but in a way that's not going to scare off our sellers and have them not sell to us. We still always plan to close the deal if we can't find an end buyer. So that's why we're not too worried about it. If, we're going to back out of the deal if we couldn't find a buyer, then at that point, that's when we like to have vacant houses. We don't really like to disturb tenants or sellers in their houses by having a lot of walkthroughs. If we don't plan to close the deal, you can, but that's why we really, really push for vacant houses and for the lock boxes. But you can still wholesale occupied houses. People do it all the time, and we buy them that way too. We buy and sell them occupied. It's just we prefer vacant. Makes it a lot easier.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I love it.
Emily, can I please have access to your Podio so I can duplicate it?
Yeah. Do you have Tyler's contact information by chance, or do you see him in the group in the Facebook group?
I actually haven't gotten on the Facebook group yet.
Okay.
Ryan Moeller, I think, is out there with Matt right now, or is doing some things. Anyway, so Ryan's trying to emulate Matt, and so he just upgraded us to is it Hotly, the Podio that's got hot in it? I'm not sure. I just got access to it today, so.
Okay, yeah. And let's see. So Tyler what's your last name? Is it Moeller?
Well, that's my boss.
Oh, your boss. So what's your last name?
Bradbury.
Bradbury? Okay. Yeah.
It looks like I've got it, and it's in the email that Ryan sent me to come listen to you guys. So,
okay. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm just taking down your information so that I can email Tyler after this call, and then so he can give you. But if it's Ryan's Podio, that's what you want access to, right?
And I have access to his Podio, so that's what I'm using. But I'm just the way yours was laid out, I'm still very much learning Podio.
Oh, I see.
And so I'm I'll be fine once I get rolling, but I'm so timid when I first get rolling on a piece of software that I'm okay, don't touch anything lest you delete it all.
Yeah. You can't. You honestly go in there and play around with it, put a bunch of stuff in there, push the buttons. You won't mess anything up that can't be fixed, I promise. Because I felt the same exact way when I got started, and it was very overwhelming and intimidating, but it's so, again, customizable, which makes it almost impossible to mess up, because there's in the back end, there's the coding and stuff, which I'm not a coder by any means, but that's why we have Tyler. I don't know if he's a coder, but he's very smart and knows how to do this stuff. So if anything got messed up, it could be fixed. So go in there and push the buttons. I think the only thing you didn't have was walkthrough, but you don't need that part to get started. We actually added that years later. So just for now, what you have, go from seller leads to offers to contracts, and that's the process. And if you just follow that coordination map and everything through, you can work all your deals through there. Just get comfortable, pushing things over, putting in numbers and stuff. You really won't mess anything up that can't be fixed.
Okay, because our team so Ryan's been doing this for and so he's doing wholesaling, he's doing pre-flips and fix and flips, and so we brought on as COVID started, so I'm his transaction coordinator / just about anything else he asks me to do.
Oh yeah.
I've painted doors so far, I've staged houses, and I've only been with him for 9 weeks.
Oh, you'll have more to do, I promise. I started going and getting coffee, picking up dry cleaning, filing.
Right. Well, he stole me from a title company, so I actually was a transaction coordinator at a title
perfect.
company.
So you know how the process pretty much works then, when we were following along, you heard of all this stuff. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know, and it's I know the other side of that. I get all the virtual stuff, but on the title side, you're Jesus. And in Indiana, it can't be. We don't allow digital signatures for PAs and lots of stuff and deeds, and they don't allow it yet.
Well, they still allow it, even if it's not digital, through HelloSign. Adobe actually has where you can save a signature, and then use that. Let me see if I can.
Well, it depends, because I have one right now where I've got a seller, or I've got a mortgage holder out in California who's very young and doesn't want to go and get anything notarized. Well, he sent me what he sent me, and it's too dark to notarize or to record, so they want a live signature.
Well, see how live this looks? If you make it smaller.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I was queen of
This is what I do for everything, though. So
let's just put it this way: they will get their live signature.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There are ways around that.
There are ways.
Yeah.
We like to call that arts and crafts time.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Well,
Nice to meet you.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say nice to meet you, Megan. I'm Ryan Muller's buddy, and he's my buddy. And yeah, he mentioned you to me. So.
Oh Lord.
No, he just mentioned his team, and you know, so it's a pleasure to meet you. And that's awesome. Put a face to the name. That's awesome. I didn't know that actually. And he's actually in North Carolina right now.
Yes.
At an event out there with a lender. I don't think Matt's there. It's not anything to do with Matt. But,
Oh, I didn't. You know, all I knew is he was gone, and we decided we would schedule the keg to be delivered last night at 5. So, you know.
The what to be delivered last night?
The keg.
The
keg, the beer keg.
The beer keg?
We decided that if Ryan was going to leave, we were all going to play.
Oh, I won't say anything. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
It's totally recorded.
He's totally down with it. Oh, right. Yeah, it's recorded. Well, he
It's okay. He was on the text thread. He was upset that we were waiting for him. It's okay.
But yeah, I don't know if I have any other questions. I think that's pretty much, you did a great job, Amanda.
Well, thank you. And it was good to see you guys again. Your next call
Likewise.
will be on Monday. I don't know if I'm there or not, but.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I heard this part right. I don't want to interrupt. So pretty much all your contracts, do y'all always go back and renegotiate or attempt to go back and renegotiate? I know you mentioned something about 7 to 10.
Yeah, for the most part. Unless it's just like a grand slam type of deal that, you know, we'll take it like that. We don't want to rock the boat, but usually if it's, even if it's a good deal, we'll always ask, because the worst they can say is no, and then you proceed anyway. You have it under contract, so you can still close the deal if they say no.
Have you had a situation where a seller just gets so upset where they just don't show up to closing or anything like that because of that? And
no, but if they ever did, your attorney could handle that, because they would, you know, not be in compliance with the contract. They're required to close after they sign. So definitely the threat to sue has happened before, and deals get closed. So, you know, you have that option to always ask, but that doesn't ever irritate, you know, anyone enough to not close. If you say, hey, you know, we need a $5,000 reduction, and they're like, no, you know, we're good on the price, say, okay, like we can make it work then. You know, it's really not a big deal to ask. And then I haven't had anyone try to back out of closing, at least not recently. I'm sure it's happened over the thousands of deals that we've done, but it's really not an issue enough for us to not ask for that reduction.
So y'all typically on average ask for $5,000 or so? Is that a certain number that y'all go for?
I just use the $5,000 because our deals in the Quad Cities, our average price is anywhere from like 80 to 100,000 as far as like what it's worth after the rehab. Like that's the retail sales price on average, at least for the houses we buy, because we buy the older, you know, 1900s style houses. And then we like to get them locked up for 25, 30 grand, depending on the work needed. So there's usually a pretty good spread there, but I only use 5,000 just because our numbers are a little bit smaller than places maybe in like Los Angeles or Miami or Phoenix. You know, those are going to be bigger numbers. You have a bigger spread, I guess. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, I gotta, you know, it's a pleasure. It was great. I gotta go, but have yourselves a really nice weekend. Thank you.
Yeah, it was good to see you guys. Bye.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye.